So in today's video, we're going to be learning all about ball pythons and why they have such a special place in the reptile community. So if I grabbed your interest, stay tuned. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Josue from Josue's Exotics, and if you're new to the channel, I make videos about reptiles and amphibians and how to take care of them. So if you'd like to learn more, consider subscribing. So today we're going to talk about a very special snake called the Python regius, or more commonly known as the ball python, or depending on where you come from, the royal python. So moving on to geographic range, these guys can be found in Central and Western Africa. The ball python is native to the Sudan area west of the Nile River and also in Sierra Leone in West Africa. They've also been noticed as far as the Ivory Coast as well. And they like to inhabit savannas, grasslands, and open forests. So since ball pythons are nocturnal, they spend the majority of their time in underground burrows and they come out at night to actually feed and hunt and search for food. And in more recent studies, they've shown to see increased populations of ball pythons in areas that have been cleared for farming use and other things like that. As babies, ball pythons can be generally around 10 inches long, and as they grow, they become more sexually dimorphic. This means that there's a distinct difference in between size and appearance between the males and the females, alongside of differences in between their genitalia and reproductive organs. So when ball pythons grow into adults, the males can generally be around 3 to 4 feet long, and the females can get 4 to 5 feet long. So your typical wild type ball python is going to look something similar to what I have here with my two ball pythons, Spaghetti and Arnold. And as you can see, their coloration consists of lighter and darker browns and blacks and a mixture of those things to help blend into their environment. Another common trait of ball pythons is they tend to have stripes going from their nostrils back to their eyes. The average lifespan of a ball python in captivity is recorded to be around 20 years. Although there have been certain cases where there have been ball pythons that have been recorded to live to 28 and some places 50 years. But in the wild, they tend to have a little bit shorter lifespans, and that can be closer to around 10 years due to predation and other environmental factors like temperature and other things. So, fun fact. Have you guys ever wondered why they're called ball pythons? It's because of the defense mechanism that they use whenever they tend to feel threatened by predators or any other thing. And this is actually called balling, where the snake balls itself into a small little ball and protects its head at the center. This is due to the fact that this is a very docile species of snake, and biting is more or less a last resort for these creatures. And this is one of the main reasons why I think these guys are one of the #1 snakes in the reptile community. Another cool fact about these guys is that these guys are available in a very wide array of different colors and morphs and other things like that. And just to name a few, you have your albino morphs, you have your leucistics, you have pastels, you have mojaves, you have bumblebees, spinners, and the list just goes on from there. But another thing to consider when looking into morphs is the actual price range of the snake. So with typical wild types, they tend to be on the cheaper side, so you could probably find one for 25, 50, 75 bucks, versus you start getting up to $1,500 and $2,000 for certain special morphs like dreamsicles and things like that. As I mentioned before, ball pythons are nocturnal creatures, and they do a lot of their hunting and feeding at night. So you may ask yourself, if these guys do a lot of their hunting and feeding at night, how is it that they can actually catch their prey and find them? Well, for one, ball pythons have specialized eyes for seeing at night, real similar to how cat eyes are with their pupils, and they tend to dilate more, and they can open up really wide at night to let in a lot more light so they can see better. In conjunction with the specialized eyes, they also have heat pits located around the lips of the actual python, which gives the snake the ability to see the thermal heat coming from the prey that they choose to eat. Also, ball pythons have a keen sense of smell. They use their forked tongue to pick up scent particles in the air, and once the tongue is retracted back into the mouth, they have yet another specialized body part called the Jacobson organ. Once inside of the Jacobson organ, the information is processed into the brain and gives the snake a better visual of what they're actually seeing as well. So with all these different adaptations that these snakes have, that makes them the perfect ambush predator. So as far as care goes for these snakes, ball pythons tend to be on the easier side and one of the more low maintenance pests that you can get. So as far as keeping ball pythons in captivity, these guys are going to be one of the easier snakes. They're super low maintenance, they only have to be fed weekly, and their actual terrarium or enclosure sizes aren't really that bad. So baby ball pythons can generally be kept in 10 to 20 gallon enclosures depending on your personal preference, and when they tend to get a little bit larger you would need to upgrade them to at least a 40 gallon aquarium or maybe something a little bit bigger. The more space the better, because these snakes are definitely going to use it if you give it to them. Another important thing alongside of enclosures is making sure that you have ample amount of hides to actually provide to your snake. These guys are very solitary creatures, so I normally put 3 to 4 hides in different locations across the enclosure, so that way they can choose where they would like to go. And alongside with putting these hides in different locations, heating is a very important thing with these guys. I normally use heat mats, and they normally have to cover at least a quarter of the enclosure, so that way they can have an actual heat gradient going down from a warmer side to a cooler side. But always make sure you use a thermostat to always regulate the heat that's actually coming out of your heat pads, because they can overheat if you don't. But last but not least, humidity is one of the most important things when keeping reptiles in general. With ball pythons, it's more or less a preference of 60 to 80%, and the higher percentile is going to be during times of shed, because if you don't know, snakes actually shed their skin periodically as they grow because it doesn't really stretch as much as ours does. So maintaining proper humidity is going to help aid in this process, so that way you don't have any stuck shed left on your snake and they can actually get it all off in one piece, and that's pretty much the main goal of that. So if you enjoyed today's video, tell me what you guys think of it down in the comments, and tell me what you think I should do for future videos and any other ideas you guys may have for the channel, because really it's about you guys and not me, and the animals of course. So if you guys want to see some more of my videos, I'll post some on the right side of the screen, so that way you guys can go check them out.